Today I'm going to be showing you an SAT grammar hack that could save you up to 50 points on your test score. So let's get started right away. So with today we're going to be covering commas, and with commas there are four main rules. So first, let's dive right into the first rule, which is conjunctions and commas. So we use commas when we're combining two independent clauses, and we use a comma and we use a coordinating conjunction. So for example, I studied hard, comma, but I still felt nervous. We can see here that I studied hard is its own sentence. It's an independent clause. I still felt nervous is also its own sentence, and it stands alone as an independent clause. But and the comma are used to connect the two independent clauses and combine them in one sentence. Next, we can also see I studied hard but felt nervous. This does not require a comma because it is not two complete sentences, aka independent clauses. We see that there is one independent clause, I studied hard. But the problem is there is not another independent clause right here. Felt nervous is a dependent clause and it needs something. That's why we have a conjunction here that connects the two, but there would be no comma in this scenario. All right, so the second rule has to do with lists, and this one is pretty self-explanatory. Many of you guys must have learned this earlier, but I'll go over it really quickly just to remind you. You only use commas in a list of three or more. So for example, if you have two items in the list, you would not use commas. So for example, I brought pencils and snacks. That would not require commas. But if you say I brought pencils, snacks, and my calculator, then you would require commas to separate the three items. And also for more items, you would require more commas. All right, so next we have introductory elements, and these are comma after an introductory word or phrase. So we notice here it says after the exam, so it's after an event, I went to sleep. So we see an independent clause here, and after the exam. So this is just like additional information, comma, independent clause. Additional information, running late, she skipped breakfast. She skipped breakfast is an independent clause. And the key here to recognize this pattern is to look for time phrases or introductory clauses at the beginning. So just make sure you're looking for those things that say that give a little bit more context to what's going on in the sentence, and those will be your introductory phrases or time phrases. And this won't appear as much on the SAT, I believe, but it's still important to know for when it does appear, you'll be prepared. All right, and the last rule is appositives or extra info. This one is very tricky and it does appear a lot on the SAT. So we can see here the professor, comma, a 50-year-old man looks tired. The trick here is that if you get rid of this a 50-year-old man, right? You can still say the professor looked tired. It's an independent clause. But the thing is, the professor, and then there's a comma with additional excess information, and then there's another comma to close that excess information. And this is a key idea in the SAT. You can remove, yeah, as it said, you can remove the appositive and just say the professor looked tired. This one would not work. My friend, comma, Sarah is coming, and you would only use commas if you have multiple friends, and that will create a list. But since Sarah is the subject, it wouldn't work. You could say Sarah, comma, my best friend is coming. Okay. Now, let's put everything to the test with a practice question. So I'll let you read it on your own, and I'll tell you the answer at the end. So I assume you paused the video and gave it an attempt yourself, but now I'm going to go over the practice question, and it's actually an interesting one because this is more of a special case. Okay, so a study led by scientist Rebecca Kirby at the University of Wisconsin-Madison found that black bears that eat human food before hibernation have increased levels of a rare carbon isotope carbon-13. We know that because it's in the answer choices. Due to higher carbon-13 levels in corn and cane sugar. Bears with these elevated levels were also found to have much shorter hibernation periods on average. Okay, which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? All right, so we can see here, all right, I'm going to test it out. I'm just going to try to say the entire sentence without carbon 13, without saying any of this. And actually, a rare carbon isotope due to higher carbon 13 levels and cane sugar, in corn and cane sugar. That doesn't even sound bad. That sounds like a normal sentence. And the reason it does is because this goes back to our last rule, which was the excess information rule. And in this excess information rule, we can see here that the professor, comma, a 50-year-old man, comma. So we see that there's two commas, opening comma, excess information, closing comma. So if we use the same analogy here, we would have an opening comma, our excess information, which is the carbon name, and then our closing comma. So we can already rule out answer choice B and answer choice C because C has two closing commas and B has no closing commas. But we see answer choice A has one closing comma, but it's in the middle, it's between the two words, and answer choice D has a closing comma and it's after the scientific notation. And this is a key rule because technically both of them look right, but actually in scientific writing, the correct answer would be D because you would treat the carbon 13 and the scientific symbol as one word. So it would be carbon 13 and then you treat it as one thing. So it's impossible for you to even do a comma and then 13C because the 13C relates to the carbon 13 anyways. So it would just be weird if it was left hanging like that. Anyways, I hope that was a good explanation. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out in the comments. I'll do my best to reply. And once this channel reaches 100 subscribers, I will upload a full SAT grammar guide, and I promise you that it will boost your score by a lot. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.